And our Fox 29 Common Sense lawyer, Shari Olefson, is back with us today with some great tips for avoiding serious problems when in foreclosure.
It's 8 a.m. Live, local, your Fox 29 Morning News starts now.
Well, as many of you may know, renting out a condo or apartment complex has its advantages, but it also has some disadvantages.
Well, when it comes to foreclosure, there are a few things to really consider to make sure you're covered from future legal problems. Fox 29's Roxanne Stein joins us now with more.
And we're joined this morning by Fox 29's Common Sense lawyer, Shari Olefson. Shari is an author, attorney, and director of the Carnegie Group think tank. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We have seen recently that HOAs throughout the area have seen fewer fees paid by owners who are in foreclosure. But right now, it seems that some of these HOAs are standing up and saying, we ain't going to take this anymore. So if you are in foreclosure, what can an HOA do to an owner who's not paying their fees?
Well, a lot, and they're doing more than ever before. The main document that gives the homeowners association or condominium association the rights is called the declaration, and that's something that the developer prepares and records in the public records in the county where you own your home. So when you buy your home, the seller or the developer and the realtor are legally obligated to give that to you. That's what lays out like whether you can park your trucks there, whether you can put a satellite dish, that kind of thing. But it also is where the rights to establish a budget by the board of directors is set forth. Also, the rights for the association to charge you fees based on that budget, place a lien on your home if you don't pay those fees, and then foreclose with sort of what we call super priority, meaning they can wipe out anything else. The only thing they can't wipe out, Roxanne, is a first mortgage from an institutional lender, because if they didn't provide for that in the declarations, banks wouldn't want to lend in your subdivision or your building.
How quickly can all this happen?
Well, right now, because the foreclosure pipeline is so backed up, it takes a while. But associations are actually able to execute on their foreclosures much quicker than banks because they don't have the same rules like the Truth in Lending and RESPA that the banks have. Now, the laws that cover this are the Florida statutes. It's Chapter 718 and Chapter 720, and basically that they explain what needs to be in the declaration, but they also provide some interesting information. For example, the association can lien for any amount. There's no minimum. So folks have actually lost their homes for only a few $1,000s. They can file a lien for a few $100s. They're also allowed to collect attorney's fees, and if you've ever been involved in this, you know that the attorney's fees can be way more than the actual assessments. They can really add up. Now, the statutes provide that the association has to execute on their lien within 90 days. That basically means they have to do something about it. They can't just file it and then sit on it. Homeowners then have 45 days to try to to settle it with the association. Now, an interesting new development because of the way the economy has been. A lot of folks were not paying the associations, renting out their units and just collecting rent. So there were new statutes a couple years ago that now allow the association to intervene, collect that rent, use it to pay the assessments, and evict a tenant if they're not paying rent.
I've seen some of that happen, but when we say all of this can go on, are homeowners associations really doing all of this?
And that's probably the most interesting dynamic here altogether, because we were talking before, several years ago, before the real estate bubble burst, associations they're voluntary organizations, they're loosely formed, and so they weren't very aggressive about exercising these rights. Maybe they would restrict your access from the pool or not give you an extra parking pass if you weren't paying up. Now, the tipping point has been reached, and you were saying before that homeowners are just getting so angry that they're insisting that the associations exercise their rights. So we're seeing associations foreclosing on their own liens. We're seeing them exercise the rights to collect the rent. And you had mentioned that you know of some areas where the associations are actually now homeowners and they're renting those houses or whatnot. They're using this leverage to intervene and hold up modifications or short sales until they get paid, and using all kinds of other rights, including a phenomenon called reverse foreclosure, which actually started right here in South Florida in Homestead in a development called Keysgate, where they actually forced the bank to foreclose. The most interesting thing, though, is that they're really pursuing these deficiency judgments, and there's a cottage industry of collections firms buying them from the associations, and folks are getting notices 3 or 4 years after foreclosure that they have a judgment, and they're going to lose their bank accounts or their wages because they didn't pay the association.
So they've got to make it right one way or another. And I think what you said in your conversation about some of the declarations and the actual laws behind the process is that some of these homeowners are finding that they're getting foreclosed upon for just a few $100s. And some of these homeowners have just laughed it off and said, oh, I'm just going to get a few $100s behind. They're not going to do anything. And the homeowners association, as you said, are bowing to the pressure from the other homeowners saying, no, if I'm paying and my neighborhood isn't getting maintenance it needs.
And you're stuck picking up the shortage that other folks aren't paying. People are not happy about that. So that tipping point has long been reached. The associations are getting aggressive, but even more important, there's this cottage industry that's going after the associations. They don't even have to pick up the phone to call someone. There are these collections firms and lawyers that are soliciting them to buy the judgments to pursue. And when someone pays money for a judgment against you, you better be damn sure that they're going to go after you.
You're getting.
Oh yeah.
I think I can tell this is really going on.
Yeah, very aggressive.
Absolutely. All right, Shari Olefson, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you in a week with a lot more information. Ladies, note to self: keep the HOA fees current.
Good advice. Shari tells me I'm doing it. That's it. I take all her advice. Thank you so much.
Great advice.
Time now. Time now.